I'm on the east side of Central Park. Look how pretty it is. I walked here all the way from my apartment, and about 3 weeks ago, all I could do was like walk around my block. So the fact that I walked here without stopping, not at the fastest rate at all, but that I walked all the way across the park is certainly progress. Well, it's been about a month since my lung issues, and I wanted to give you all an update. As a reminder, I had a very rare reaction to one of the chemo drugs called bleomycin that caused an allergic reaction in my lungs. My chemo regimen has 4 drugs, so now it's just down to 3 because they've taken that one out. The way that my lungs were treated was with a crazy high dose of steroids called, let me have a trusty bottle here, prednisone. And I was on a very high dose. I started with 120 milligrams. And that was a month ago, and I'm going to stay on them through mid-May. And I'm going to I started at 120, then I went to 60, now I'm at 40, then I'll go to 30, 20, 10. So the way that you come off these steroids is not immediately, but you have to taper. These steroids, unfortunately, have some pretty negative side effects. They can decrease your bone density, which is really bad, especially for women. The other side effect is like, when you think of steroids, there's 2 different kinds. One kind that people take to get really buff and muscular, and this is actually the opposite, that this kind of gets in the way of muscle building or has muscle atrophy potential. So that's a real bummer because I'm like, well, at least if I'm on steroids, I can really build my muscles, but it has the opposite effect. So as you can see, my face is very puffy, and that is thanks to the steroids, something called a half moon syndrome or something that is giving me a lot of puff. Because in my free time, thanks to my steroids, my new hobby is eating because it just makes you really hungry. So hopefully this is gonna go away. But anyways, anything to get my lungs back. The positive side of being on the steroids is that while I'm still on chemo, it covers all the side effects. So sometimes my veins have been hurting from the infusion. Sometimes I get mouth sores, giving me a little more energy. So it's making the chemo a little easier. So there are some positives of being on these crazy steroids for a crazy long time. About a month ago, I was literally having trouble like walking around the block. A month later, I've been walking a little bit every day, and all I've been doing for movement is walking. So that was really hard, going from, not that I was at the gym all the time or doing yoga, but I was when I was feeling pretty good. Well, I have improved. Now I can walk for up to an hour. I can even walk and talk. I can walk upstairs. I get a little, like I feel it, but I don't have to lay down so there's definitely been improvement, and that's been heartening to see. It's been a relief to see because I need my lungs. Something I was not expecting to get winded from was I decided to make banana bread. Tori Hunt makes me really yummy banana bread, and I found a really good protein banana bread recipe because when you're on steroids, you need to be on high protein diet, low sugar, low sodium. Not easy.
It's like we did yoga today and baking, and now we have to see how are your lungs. I think so for your breathing.
Yeah.
Mucho más difícil.
Exercising my lungs. I didn't know that was a side effect. Thanks to my coach, I would have been lost by myself.
Chef, no coach.
I don't think you earned that title yet. No offense.
Chef de pâtisserie.
I want to thank Maite Sanchez for accompanying me and supporting me, being my coach in this banana bread journey. If you want this recipe, let me know, or maybe I'll put it in the description below. So 3 weeks after being on the steroids, I went through 2 different tests. I went through a CT scan to look at my lungs again, and the CT scan was like clear. So that's amazing. I also went through a pulmonary function test. Now, I did it before chemo. That was my baseline. I did it right when we found out about this lung toxicity, and my lungs were pretty much minus 60% from baseline. Minus 60, that's insane. And then 3 weeks with the steroids, now I am at minus 30% capacity with my lungs. So that is definitely moving in the right direction. A week ago, I started doing yoga, and today I am going to start working with weights, which is really important considering these steroids have a negative impact on bone density and on muscle. So I need to really build that up. So I got the green light from the oncologist to do any kind of exercise I want to do as long as I don't get too winded. So we're back, baby. I have one chemo left on April 21st. However, now the chemo and the lungs are kind of like having a life of their own. So even though the chemo will finish, I'll stay on the steroids, and it'll be a month after the chemo, I'll do a PET scan and I'll do another pulmonary function test to see how my lungs are improving and to make sure the cancer is still gone. So everything is moving in the right direction with a new wrinkle. And then the hope is that the tests can come back good and I get the green light from my oncologist to go to Mazatlan. And the last thing I'll say is I've been monitoring my oxygen levels. Originally, when I went to chemo, when my lungs were all messed up, my lung capacity was at 90. They brought back the machine because they thought there was something wrong with the machine, but it wasn't. It was wrong with me. I have been monitoring every day, a couple times a day, my oxygen. I'm doing it now, and look at that, 98. So I went from 90 to 98, which is perfectly normal. So all this to say is that my lungs are totally on the right track. It's been very frustrating, but encouraging in what everything is showing. So I want to thank you all for your support, and we're getting there.